afternoon, everyone. My name is Aimee Barber. It's my pleasure to actually just start right off and introduce Dr. Joseph Sadwal, the president of the University of Louisiana, who has agreed to kick off our summit today. So I'm going to hand it over to him, and I'll be back up shortly.
Good afternoon, everyone. What a wonderful day, what a wonderful event, what a wonderful cause. I want to thank you all for being here. It's a pleasure to welcome you to the university. This event is the product of an extraordinary collaborative effort among several people. We're appreciative of everyone who contributed their ideas, their care, and their commitment to this conversation. I'm especially grateful to the United Way of Acadiana, the Pugh Family Foundation, and our own College of Education for sponsoring this summit. Now, we all know that improving education in Acadiana and beyond requires hearing a host of voices and considering the future from a multitude of perspectives. I want to thank all of you for being staunch advocates for our children and for their success. As you well know, there's a direct connection between education and nearly every measure that we use to judge a state and nation's vitality. A robust educational system produces informed citizens, improves health, strengthens the economy, and buttresses a host of other pillars on which society rests and thrives. That's why conversations like this summit are so important. To create a better tomorrow, we must answer the questions of today and anticipate opportunities that lie ahead. Last week, we had a glimpse of what that future will look like, and I'm happy to report that it looks very bright. The university played host to nearly 500 aspiring educators from across our state. And the student union was overflowing with the enthusiasm that you inevitably see whenever you see rising educators gather. Their excitement wasn't confined to their own chosen careers. Like all teachers, they were excited about the impact that they could have on their own students. That's why preparing tomorrow's teachers is so essential. It's not simply a case of sharpening the professional skills of one person. It's about empowering that one person to instill within our youngest minds a lifelong love of learning so that they will pass that on to someone else. Now, working to prepare tomorrow's education leaders is an intergenerational investment that's worth making, and it's one that we're making here at the university. As you may know, plans are underway at the university for a lab school to provide a living model of research-based, globally inspired best practice. Will encourage inquiry, innovation, and growth, both for its students and for the aspiring educators who train within its walls. Supporting the current and next generation of educators in our state and for our state is something that which the university is wholly committed. And it's heartening to see a room full of individuals who share that commitment and who understand its power. So I want to thank you all for being here. I want to thank you for your dedication. I hope that you enjoy the summit and occasions. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce our next presenter, Mr. Pugh. Nick has been a very successful and engaged business person, and he's been an outstanding philanthropist for education for a variety of causes, including the university. But I know that this issue is near and dear to his heart. So let me introduce to you an outstanding citizen of our community, Mr. Nick Pugh.
Well, hello everybody. I'm Nick. Now, on my way over here, my wife reminded me, says, you're getting old and crotchety. So be careful what you say. And she's worried about me becoming senile, so she puts my name on my shirt so I don't forget. But on a less serious note, about 6 decades ago, I chose to be an engineer. Looking back on my career, sometimes I wish I had been an educator. So let me tell you why. You know, one of these days, we're going to have to go to the pearly gates, and St. Peter's going to ask us. He's not going to ask us how much money you made. He's going to ask us, did you make a difference? And as educators, you guys have a marvelous opportunity to make a difference. If you're in the classroom for 30 years, you're going to touch at least 1,000 students. Now, if I was in your place, I would hope that I would see a young girl, a timid girl, and I would tell her that she is somebody. And I would encourage her to actually sit down and stand up for her rights. And that girl was Rosa Parks. As a teacher, I hoped I was spotted an educator called Sadwal. You know, he was a guy who had a marvelous opportunity, a great opportunity to explain very complicated concepts to people like me. If I was an educator, I hoped I was spotted in Bill Gates class. And I would encourage you that learning is more important sometimes than grades. If I was an educator, I'd hoped I was spotted with a bus to the world. You know, they taught him how to think out of the box. Let me restate that. They taught him how to think out of this world. You know? He was one of the real vessels to go to Mars. So now I want you guys to think of a big old airplane. You know, one of them 747 kind of things. It's got about the wingspan of a football field. Now, if you sit in the departure lounge and you see a young fellow come out there and get in the pilot seat, you might have 100 hours. Do you think twice about getting in the airplane? Or I want you to think about a nice house you'd like to build. You know, it takes carpenters to build a house. And if you don't want your house to look good, you don't want to put jack legs as carpenters. Well, let's don't do the same thing with our students. Let's don't put those students at risk. So now, here's the challenge. In Lafayette Parish alone, our superintendent needs to hire 200 teachers. Just Lafayette Parish. And our university here in UL, which is the premier educational university in the state, only produces 150 students. Now, I know in this one, there's a lot of smart folks in here. And your challenge is how to fix this teacher shortage. So, as I was listening to the radio the other day, on the preacher said, the Lord doesn't want you to lean on the shovel and pray for a hole. He wants you to start digging. So you guys in this room, let's go figure out how to solve that teacher shortage. Now, in some of the schools in the parish, we have leader meeting, and one of the rules is begin with the end in mind. So let me let you know a little controversy at our foundation. What is the end that we want? I unabashedly tell my folks at the foundation, anybody that listens to me, my hope is in 3 of the schools, the emerging schools in the zone become an A school in 3. And I want all the schools in the parish to be an A school in 5 years. So now, they're saying, maybe he really is senile. But I also tell the story that about 3 hours west of here, we had a young president, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, who in 1962 stood up in Wright Stadium and said, we choose to go to the moon by the end of the decade. And we choose to do it not because it's easy, but because it's hard. And you know, if he'd have met Elon Musk at that time, Musk might have said, you too dang tender. I want to go to Mars. So guys, we're here to help. I want to recognize our colleagues, Dr. Kip Schumacher, and Sadwal, United Way. We're here to help, but I especially want to introduce the folks behind the curtain. That is Todd over here, and Erica Red, and Carlin, and we're here to listen. So I want to, my last part of the remark is it's kind of a selfish remark for you guys, especially young educators. You know, if you want to cash your Social Security checks, you got to teach your students how to build things. So guys, we're grateful that you're here. We want you to help us and help everybody become better educators. Good luck.
Thank you, Nick, and thank you, Dr. Sadwal, for those opening remarks. I just want to say thank you all very much for coming. We are very thrilled at who has chosen to come today, and we know that we have assembled a group of nearly 200 very, very busy people. And so thank you for taking your afternoon to share it with all of us, and we hope that you find this first Education Summit very much worth your time. I want to tell a couple little anecdotes, and then we'll get started into the meat of today's presentations. This summit came together in part because of the discussion at a Leadership Lafayette session. So I know Sadwal, we have folks from all over the region, but we have many folks from Lafayette today. And I wanted to thank those folks that generated a discussion that said they listened to a panel on education and said, why aren't these issues being talked about at a community level? Why are they only being talked about in Leadership Lafayette? And from that idea that Todd Mouton sat on that panel came this summit. So many thanks to the Pugh Family Foundation and for the UL College of Education for helping to put this on. And we're thrilled, and we hope and plan that this is the first of many. I also want to thank the 34 partner organizations who signed on and said that they would help promote it, that they would send someone, and that they thought that this was important. You guys are what made sure that we had this awesome group of community leaders in the room that are going to ensure that the content today is valuable and interesting and helps propel us into more collaboration in education. So thanks to each one of you for everything you've done to get us here today as well. Then I want to say thank you to all the folks who've been a part of Education Week. This is the culminating event. We started with the awesome Educators Rising conference last week that was so inspiring, and it gives us a hope for the future of that pipeline to be more than 200 teachers that we so desperately need. And then this week, when we had a private reception for our honored educators Tuesday night, as well as the annual teacher awards last night. So we're very thrilled. But I feel like, the first part of Education Week was celebration, and today's the day we get to work. And so you all are primarily the people in the trenches. You're pretty high up in the trenches, many of you, but you're the people who are going to make the real changes in education and in policy in our region. And so thank you for coming this afternoon and for spending so much of your time with us. So just one final thank you. Thank you also, I think many of them are outside, but the United Way team and the Pugh Family Foundation team and the UL team who have been working tirelessly to make this happen. So thanks to all of them as well. All right, so let's get started into the meat. I'd love to introduce Aimee Barber, professor at UL, and I'll let her give her bio. But she is going to start off with the state of education. We thought it was very important to ground today's discussion in the facts and details, and so I'm going to hand it off to her.
Y'all hear me okay? There it is. I love to see all the green. I totally missed that memo this morning. I apologize. So when I was asked to do the state of education, I thought that was like a really big task. And so I kind of took it in my own spin, and I hope you're okay with that. I decided that I wanted to talk about the human state of education. Because education is such a human field. There are so many humans involved in the field that I think we really need to take a hard look at what's going on with all the humans involved before we really start digging into numbers and test scores and learning loss and data. What if we step back and really looked at the humans involved? So just to give you who I am, my name is Aimee Barber. I put my maiden name in there to show you I'm just a Cajun girl, that my whole family's from Warnerville, Louisiana. My parents moved to Lafayette and then to Milton, Louisiana, where I went to Milton Elementary from kindergarten through 8th grade. So a product of Lafayette Parish School System, and then full circle forward, when I became a teacher, then something kind of, shifted. I was a teacher now. I was in charge of my own classroom. What would I do? This was incredibly exciting for me, and my experiences were very different at the beginning. So I started in a very high poverty, low performing school, and really poured my heart and soul in there. That was in 2005, and that was the year that Katrina hit, that August. So there was not a teacher shortage that time. There were no positions hiring. And so I ended up getting a position at 4 miles down the road in the most expensive independent And so you can imagine the differences that I saw there, what students were able to do, the way that teachers were treated was completely different. And even though I wanted a job in that high-need school, I'm very thankful now for my different experiences, because I'm kind of putting those together to say, I need to go be a teacher educator so that we can show all teachers how to use these creative strategies, these gifted strategies that I was using across my whole class to all teachers in all schools. Then I became a mom, and that shifted something in me too, where it was like, I want so much for my precious baby, but the shift was, what if there's no such thing as someone else's kid? What if we want all those same things for all kids? Are we really doing that for all kids in all schools? And I think right now the answer is no, and we can't be afraid to say that there are different opportunities happening in our sacred community that we really need to address. And so thankfully we're all here today, we're all in the room to see some ways that we can start making that happen. And so then fast forward, becoming a teacher of teachers, a teacher educator, I take this very seriously. We work very hard. We are doing a lot to overhaul our programs. But fast forward, now I'm in year 10 of being a teacher educator and realizing that all of my precious students who are now in schools are leaving the profession. They're texting me, they're calling me, I can't do it anymore. All these things are going on. And so now I feel like I've kind of come full circle into needing to be a student advocate for my own students who are now teachers in the field. So I have some numbers to share with you. Number 48, can anybody guess what that number represents? Yes. Yes, the state ranking. So people say that we're always competing for 48 and 49 with Mississippi. I don't know where they land right now, but number 48 is Louisiana's education ranking out of 50. Now we could probably poke holes in how those rankings are made, but still, this is something worth investigating, and that's what we're all here for to do today. So when I think about issues in education, I think of them as an entanglement. It's just there's so many things, and they're all kind of woven together. And so before we really go to solve anything, we kind of need to take a step back and look at the big picture and start to unweave all of these issues. You'll see popping up just a few of the issues that are happening now, but I'm sure that we can spend the next hour adding many more to this list of entanglement. So today is really about understanding some of the issues that are involved in education right now. And then the next part is really about uniting together to be able to start exploring some possible solutions. So the areas for the breakouts are going to be early childhood education, teacher recruitment and retention, which is kind of my heart, and community education involvement and workforce needs related to education. And like I said, the theme is understand, unite, and uplift. So we're going to end the day with an uplifting session to show that we want to give a platform to teachers, we want to share their voice, and we want to build the prestige of the teaching profession, because I think that would solve a lot of our problems. So as we look at the human state of education, we have students involved, parents involved, teachers involved, community, and right now, kids are stressed out. We're very focused on the learning loss that happened because of COVID, and what's happening is that we're so involved in trying to address those learning loss needs that we're not really attending to the social and emotional well-being of kids. We're not really asking, what's going on? What are you feeling? What's going on with you? Because we just don't have time. We're trying to catch up. Parents have been kind of angry, in the last couple of years for lots of different reasons. And even if they're not screaming like this parent here, they're maybe sitting quietly at home, just kind of concerned or worried. Is this the best thing for my child? Are they really getting everything that I want them to get? Teachers are burning out. Teachers are leaving at staggering rates because we keep adding to their backpacks. We keep throwing rocks into their backpacks and not taking anything out at the same time. And so that kind of leaves the community, saying like, whoa, I'm not touching that. I don't want to deal with education. That sounds very crazy and noisy and wild. So I feel like I'm going to take a step back. Not you, because you're here today, so thank you. But other people in the community, like future teachers, are saying, I'm not doing that. That sounds crazy. This is a tumultuous time in education. I'm staying far away from it. So I think we need to just investigate that kind of whoa feeling where we're stepping back and do more things like this where we're really merging different fields together. Because all of us are here because we know that high quality education for all is the most important part of a thriving community. Do you agree with that? There's so much that comes from education. Talk about economy, getting businesses to move here. They're looking for good education. Talk about, parents staying here. They're looking for good education. And then think about the citizenry that you're building through an awesome education pipeline for everyone. It just gives you better leaders for the community of the future. So when we dig into why we're having some of these issues, I think one big thing just to understand is the difference between the achievement gap and the opportunity gaps. And I would argue that the achievement gap exists because of gaps in opportunities. And we might say, not in our community, but they're here. There are gaps in what kids can receive, the opportunities that they receive. So if we just go through this quickly, a book gap. Studies show that just by having access to books as a young child can actually increase your reading later on. A teacher gap. We have some schools in Lafayette who 50% of their staff is uncertified teachers because we just don't have enough teachers. A resource gap. Opportunity gap with test prep, things like that. Are we really giving all kids the same opportunities to get test prep and things to prepare them to be able to enter into college? Or are we just hoping that by inspiring them, maybe they'll make it happen for themselves? The expectation gap, some kids don't believe that they can do it because they haven't seen people like them who were able to do the things that they hope that they can do. A leadership gap, and then I added some over here, like after-school programs and clubs. I'm a parent of 3. I like to have my kids active after school, but thankfully their school offers some of those things. There are some schools in Lafayette who do not offer any after-school programs. So what can we do as a community to really pinpoint some of the needs that maybe we can help address? Summer opportunities, field trips, learning expeditions, getting them outside of the school, giving them an opportunity to look at interest-driven learning where they get to investigate. If they're really into dinosaurs, why can't they just look into dinosaurs or write about dinosaurs? Talent development, so a specific talent that maybe normally we would put aside, that's not school time stuff. Why can't we put that into school? But if we look at our community, we are so rich with assets. And this is just a quick Google Map search. So I started with the school. The school is that little blue dot right there. And then if you just do a quick Google search, you can see, look at all these assets around it. The nature station is within minutes. There are all these health clinics, these workout facilities, there's a golf course, there's an auto mechanic shop. I think one thing that our community can do is say, what school is near my organization and what might I be able to offer? Even if you're a mechanic shop, is there something that you could do to reach out to the school and go in and teach them how to do something mechanical related? So I think whenever we think about school, we often think that the community is removed from it. And what we're proposing today is this is an all hands on deck approach to improving education in a sustainable way where the entire community is on board. So I'd encourage you to do a similar search to this around your school or your organization. So we can talk about the problems, we can bring out the numbers, but I'm proposing, what if we pushed the purpose of education to the forefront of the discussions rather than the problems? And so that's really where I want to focus today, is thinking about the purpose. So that's my first question for you. You have a poster board in the middle of your table. If you could, just as a table, think first about this, then write something down, talk to your table, and then we're going to ask a few of you to share. So I don't know if you've ever thought about this, but it's kind of a complex topic. What is the purpose of education? The big, giant purpose. So take a few minutes, think first, talk at your table, and then write down what you think the purpose of education is on your poster. So teachers are rock stars. Teachers can do a million things. Teachers, there's power in teaching. But that's a lot of stuff. So, what else? What can we pull from the community to make sure that we're really doing all of those things that you just named? So I'm going to refer to some of the people who have taught me. This is Sir Ken Robinson wrote a book called Creative Schools. He also has the most watched TED Talk of all time. It's called Do Schools Kill Creativity? So, don't let that scare you away, but it's a very interesting listen. The way that he describes the purpose of education is the aims of education are to enable students to understand the world around them and the talents within them so that they can become fulfilled individuals and active, compassionate citizens. And I feel like y'all really captured a lot of those things in there. He just kind of says it in a very concise way. that reminds us that, I have this picture on the side that shows these high schoolers. Normally we would see high schoolers, sitting in desks, studying. These high schoolers look like active, engaged citizens to me, and they're still in high school. So, how can we really bring some more of this where we're connecting to the humans in our classrooms and not just to the things that we want to make sure that they know, content knowledge-wise by the time they get this. So Albert Einstein, I think, is also a great teacher. And way back when he said, education is what remains after one has forgotten what one has learned in school. And the first time I read this, I was like, oh, Albert Einstein was talking about school and education, but when you really think about it, what it says to me is after I've forgotten all the elements of the periodic table, after I've forgotten, the definitions of the words that I learned, what are the things that stay with me? And that is education. So when I step out of my high school into the world, what are the things that stay with me? And how can we build in more of those things that we want them to step out into the world with, so that when they go out and they forgot all that stuff that they learned in school, they're still very well equipped to go out and be active citizens. So when we go to understand, I think it's helpful to kind of take a step back. How did we get where we are now? How far have we come? And where do we want to go next? I mean, we're all in this room to kind of dream about that. Where do we want to go next? So I think, again, it's helpful to go back to teachers. These teachers are some of the originals. Socrates and Confucius from 400 and 600 BC. And I think there's still a lot to learn from these teachers. Socrates said, it is better to change an opinion than to persist in a wrong one. So today, as you go into breakouts, you might hear an opinion that's different from maybe what you are used to. Socrates in 400 BC said, that's good. It's better to kind of, morph and change our opinions than just to persist in a wrong one. And then Confucius says, desire to have things done quickly prevents their being done thoroughly. And I think in education, this is a tendency that we have, is to try to throw quick fixes at things that are really kind of like Band-Aids on a cancerous problem. So we want short-term solutions, but we also want to think about long-term sustainable ones too. So we could take a little trip down American education and the evolution of the purpose of American education. In the beginning, it was really about growing colonies and religion. As the Europeans came over, they were like, you're not under control anymore. Let's start growing our people. We need more people to harvest our land. We need more people to set up our colonies. So let's make some schools to teach them how to do that. Later on, that turned into, okay, now we're pretty much settled. Let's grow our industry and our production. So all of that industrial revolution kind of contributed to some changes in education in America. Then with the launch of Sputnik in the 1950s, at about the same time where all races were being accepted in public schools, just not that long ago, there was this push to grow more science and math skill. We wanted to be globally at the front of all of these face races. My question is, what do we want to grow now? What's the next block? That's where we are, where we're living in it. And so what if we were in charge? What would we pick to grow now? And I think some of you really spoke to that when you discussed the purpose. So my next question for you is, what human qualities are most valued in the workforce and in the community? So after a student steps out of high school and into the community, into the workforce, what are you as community members, as workforce people, as school people who are hiring new teachers? What are the qualities that you're most looking for? And as you talk to your tables about this, I'll ask you to think in 3 different categories. What's the knowledge that they need to come in with, the content knowledge, they just need to know these things? What are the skills that they need to come with that you're looking for? And then what are those dispositional pieces that are just part of who they are, that you want to make sure that any of your new hires or an active community member would have? So this is the last one, I promise. So if you can talk to your table about what are the qualities most valued in the workforce and community. So my colleague, Dr. Sadwal, and I are very interested in this topic. And so we've kind of been exploring what are the qualities that innovators have built in within them. And so what we're interested in is looking at, if we start at a young age with curiosity, if we are not saying, we don't talk about that at school, but maybe we're giving them an outlet, go put that, that's a very interesting question. We can't get to it right now, but go put that in your journal on your space somewhere. So encouraging curiosity. Doesn't mean you have to give up all of it the rest of the day. And then staying with that. Curiosity doesn't fall off after you have finished with pre-K or kindergarten. It keeps going. How can high schoolers continue to be curious and encouraged to wonder? Then we want to build in creativity. They're finding their own voice, they're applying what they know to be creative. They're able to collaborate, to look closely at the parts and systems of the world, to maybe see a part that they can play and possibly making that better. Having the intellectual openness to listen to other ideas and possibly change our minds, having that openness to be able to do that. The courage to act on something that matters to you, the ability to communicate your ideas clearly, and then ultimately having the resilience to stay after a problem in a long-term and sustained way, so that I can see that my hard work, my work ethic, really contributed to me, finding this result, even if it took a long time. So if we think about these being built in, I would argue, we would look back at the bottom, that the skills and dispositions are really the things that we're focused on here, and suddenly because we're focused on those skills and dispositions in real ways, the kids need and want the knowledge. They need the content knowledge in a just-in-time way, teachable moment way, where we can give them what they need because they're ravenous for it, because they need to solve the problem that's important to them. These are some other teachers of mine, the writers of this book here, and they said, the world doesn't need more graduates with good grades. But what the world needs is voracious, self-directed learners with the creative capacity to see the problems of the world as puzzles and the tenacity to work on them, even in the face of adversity. So what if we really brought that sense of purpose back to schools? We brought it as part of the regular curriculum and said, how can we build the curriculum into these capacities that are building more broad skills, because we know that it's the learning experiences that really stay with kids whenever they go into adulthood. But guess who already knows all of this? Awesome teachers. So awesome teachers know this already, but sometimes we're not really leveraging the power of awesome teachers because there are some restrictions. They are kind of under almost too much accountability along the lines of content knowledge, so that they're not always free to go out and say, there's this issue in the world, there's this issue in my community that my kids really care about, and I'm going to give them some classroom time to be able to explore that. Oh, by the way, we're also going to get into language arts and math and all of that within this problem-solving experiences, because I'm an awesome teacher and I know how to do that. So I think it's something to investigate more, is how we are really leveraging our greatest asset in our schools, which is our human capital, our teachers. So that brings me to the next number. So you might know this one, 44%. Yep, teachers who will leave the profession within the first 5 years. So we just talked about the numbers in our programs in the College of Education at UL Lafayette. Our numbers are falling. Fewer people want to come in, fewer people want to be teachers. But then whenever they get into the field, 44% of them in Louisiana are going to leave within the first 5 years. And by the way, this was a number before COVID. We don't have the numbers for after the COVID situation yet. So we cannot talk about recruitment without talking about retention. We're working very hard to recruit more students in. We had the Educators Rising Conference Friday. Over 500 future teachers from across Louisiana came. But once we get them ready for you, ready to send out into schools and out into the community, we have to treat them with respect and with professional prestige so that they will stay and be happy in their positions. So some of the reasons that are contributing to teachers leaving is, number one, right now that we're hearing is excessive workload and too much focus on accountability. So with the excessive workload, with COVID, there was more and more happening and nothing could get removed. Then teachers are leaving, there's no subs, we have to take everybody's kids. Most teachers are not getting a lunch break, they're not able to go use the restroom. They just don't have those freedoms right now. And I would argue that in any other business, no one would stand for that. But as teachers, we're sometimes called you're on the hem of heaven, you're angels, you're just so caring, thank you so much. But can we get a lunch break too? The next one is the lack of societal prestige and decision-making power. So today I wanted to host this event as a way to give a platform to teachers. Like I said, I feel like an advocate for my former students who are now teachers who are either very stressed out or have already left. So as a community, I think we can do better as a whole to really, if you meet a teacher, treat them like, ask them questions, treat them like a person that you would normally hold prestige to. Let's start putting that on the teaching profession. The third one is the lack of a career ladder when compared to other careers. So there's a career ladder, but it kind of bumps you out of the classroom. How can we build in more opportunities to have a career ladder that keeps you in classrooms, but allows you to really feel that growth and mastery that you would feel in other careers? And then finally, the driving away of professional drive. So in other careers, there's a focus on building a sense of professional drive. In teaching, they're really not as much as we would like to see. So another teacher, Dr. Martin Luther King, said, "Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter." And what we're seeing in teaching is that the day that we realize, no matter how hard I've tried, no matter how much I care, no matter how much I do, nothing is going to change. That is the definition of burnout, and that's whenever they make the decision to go do something else because they're so capable and so ready to go out into the community and change the world, and they're just not able to stay connected to the purpose that brought them into the profession in the first place. So my question is, you don't have to write for this one. My question is, what if schools were graded on teacher drive and joy? What if we switched our minds completely and said, what if we focus on taking care of our teachers and making sure that they are happy in their positions, they want to show up every day to do the hard work that they do? And when you think about drive, it's not just like some word. Daniel Pink wrote a book about professional drive, and he said it's actually not so much about money. It's more about having professional freedom, autonomy. And that doesn't mean that we go rogue and just teach whatever we want. It means that we have freedom and flexibility to adapt to student interests, to bring in real world problems, things like that. The ability to continue to develop mastery, so to continuously master your craft, to be able to pursue a master's degree, to be able to go to conferences around the world, to work with other teachers and have the autonomy to be able to continuously look for ways to master my craft. And then finally, we have to find ways to keep them connected to the purpose, because every teacher went into education because they want to change the world and the lives of kids. So how do we make sure that we stay connected to that? And I think whenever we start to focus on those things, imagine a school that looks and feels like a bustling idea factory where everyone is a learner. There's no, I'm better than you and I close my door so that I can do my amazing things in my classroom and get teacher of the year. We're all in this together. Everybody's in it together, and we all want to push and move our school forward. And because of that, we're all learners. So one more teacher, Maria Montessori, said, "The education of even a small child, therefore, does not aim at preparing him for school, but for life." And everything that you just said about the purpose, the qualities, all of those things are really, way back when, Maria Montessori knew this. We're really about preparing them for life. So with young kids, are we looking at early childhood education as a preparation for life or a preparation for school? And I think that we have to challenge some of those ideas. So let me tell you about some of the good things happening in the College of Education here in Lafayette. We are one of the largest providers of teachers for the state of Louisiana. So, we have been taking a really hard look at our programs and saying, what can we do better? What can we do differently? One of our most exciting projects that Dr. Sadwal mentioned before is a new laboratory school. Now, this laboratory school is meant to serve as an immersion of future teachers in best practice. So it's not about being a secret, awesome school. It's about being a school connected to, a small school connected to the teacher preparation program, so that these future teachers are immersed in best practice that becomes a hub of educational innovation and research to inform public policy and practice. So I'll just show you this quick video that shows an overview.
Learning is a process. Constant, but ever-changing. It's highly affected by our environment. Yet far too often, spaces for learning and the learning process itself are forced into a box, rigid, immovable, and standardized. But imagine a learning space free of those constraints, a place where learning flows, flexes, and adapts. A place that embraces curiosity and creativity while building connectivity and collaboration. A place that creates a hub for educational innovation sharing knowledge among teachers, and evolving to meet the dynamic needs of a community who truly understands. The students of today are the leaders of tomorrow. Welcome to a reimagined learning space for Louisiana. Welcome to the UL Lafayette Learning Lab.
So we don't want to just give you any teachers, we want to give our community the best ones. And so we're really working on building this school that has this unique vision for what happens in the school walls and for busting out of the school walls, like y'all talked about in the back, going on adventures, going into the community, and that's where you really come in as partners. But our ultimate mission is really to advance equity, innovation, and opportunity for all of Louisiana by going to the source, by going to the teachers. Also a part of the Learning Lab is that we are forming this collective, and today is actually the launching point of this collective approach that unites interested community and education stakeholders to use our collective knowledge, skills, and resources for systemized, sustainable, and student-centered policy and practice reform. So we know that we can't just build a school, think it's all going to be great. We really need to get out into the community, pull our knowledge together, see what the workforce issues are, see what the needs are, and really come together in this collective effort. Some other things happening are we are starting to develop more of a partnership. So UL Lafayette College of Ed and the Lafayette Parish School System are talking to each other like we should be. I put this picture here to signify that when you become a doctor and professor, there's this kind of like ivory tower stigma. We are coming down out of the ivory tower and sitting on floors with real kids. I was at Genevieve Falk Elementary this morning, sitting on the floor with real kids reading real books. We're also rebranding our programs. So as freshmen come into our programs, they're immediately starting to kind of challenge and question some of the things that they experienced in school, and they're given an opportunity to say, what would you do if you could do things differently? We partnered with Lafayette Parish School System to receive a $1.3 million grant to be able to build in some more of those partnerships where we are embedding classes on their campuses. So we're really excited about that. Also building up the Educators Rising Pre-Educator Pathway program to be able to actively recruit in a sustainable way the future teachers. And then here's the wonderful Miss Barber, who's here today, who is giving a lovely, inspiring speech to our future teachers to really encourage them to consider all schools around the area. Here's some pictures of the conference we were talking about. So on Friday, we had a panel of Lafayette Parish School System teachers and administrators who were fantastic, speaking to over 500 students from across Louisiana who are interested in becoming educators. We had Morgan and Taylor, the WU teachers, do a below party keynote that was fantastic. And maybe my favorite part is the last picture there, where we had some of the aspiring educators come up and tell why they wanted to be a teacher. None of them were timidly grabbing the microphone saying, oh, I want to, read books to kids, or I love kids. They were grabbing the microphone and saying, demanding boldly why they wanted to be a teacher in Louisiana. And it always had to do with because of a teacher who did something for them. It's very powerful. So we'll close out with one more video from a few more teachers that you might recognize.
To me, being a teacher means changing lives and making a difference.
Being a teacher is a really big responsibility because of what you mean to the people that you teach. Again, it's about the development of the young people into the young adults of the future.
A little girl she's going through sickle cell, and she has a port in her chest. And when I went through the story about me having a transplant, she came up to me and she said, Miss Turbo, look. And I was like, what am I looking? She said, I'm like you. I said, what do you mean like me? She said, look, I have a port in my chest. I asked her, was she nervous? And she was like, I'm not nervous because I see you survived. So, and I said, yeah, and you're gonna do the same.
One of my students, my first year of teaching, thought he couldn't read. And I wish I could say that I taught him to read, but all I did was really believe in him. And then the first time he read a whole page, he cried. And so I kind of cried too. But I always think back to that moment of all you have to do is believe in your students and they'll succeed. So whether it's in the classroom or in the audience of a play or on the soccer field, I just try and do whatever I can to support my students. And I think that has to be the highlight whenever they come back and remember me and I get to see their smiling faces years later, seeing how much they succeeded. That's the highlight.
You know, I've never thought that every student that would leave the program would be a musician or go into music, but it's those lessons that they learn while they're there, the life lessons that continue with them their entire career. That's the important thing. So that's probably the thing that I'm most proud of, just what it means to the people who are part of the culture of the Lafayette High Band program. To me, the important thing is trying to reach every kid as much as you can. And sometimes you may not reach all of those kids at the time, but you hope that they learn some lessons throughout the process, and later they realize that you were teaching them some things about life in general. And so it's just being as nurturing as you can for all of the students, and no matter what challenges you give those students, teaching them that the tenacity to give up giving up. That's one of the most important, valuable lessons that they learn.
Our school, just like other schools, have been going through so much stuff with the pandemic, teacher turnovers, subs not showing up. And I tell my coworkers and I tell my administrators, we got to do what we can and do it, and what we can't, let's not focus on it. You know, let's not worry about it. But my school right now, we're focusing on the positive with the grades going up, the students' academics rising. We're trying to bring the community in ways that we haven't brought the community in with parent-teacher conferences. I am the cheerleading coach, so we normally go out to the community. We give to the Women and Children's Shelter. Right now we're collecting glasses for the Lions Club of America's Best. And as we go out there, I kind of put in their bug in the ear, hey, would you like to come to Acadiana and see what we're doing here? And next thing you know, they're starting to come to our school.
Teachers need other teachers, and especially the last few years, teaching has been really hard, but we can make it through together, and I want to encourage anyone who is thinking about being a teacher to go for it, because there is not another job in the world that you can change lives like teaching can.
So those are the top 3 winners who were awarded last night at the teacher award. So let's give them a round of applause. So the final teacher that I'll share with you before we go to our breakout session is someone named Lila Watson. She's an Aboriginal Australian woman who said, if you have come to help me, you are wasting your time. But if you have come because your liberation is bound up with mine, then let us work together. And so today, as we go into our breakout sessions, let's not approach it as anybody in the room is an expert. We're all in this together. We all want the same things, which is a better, more thriving community, and to do that through better education. So instead of entering into our breakouts thinking that anybody's on top of each other, we're coming in because our liberation is bound up with one another's. We're linking arms together and working together. So thank you, and let's get to work.